Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Brain Food Show. Attempt 2 at getting started today. We've both had some technical changes this week. I've switched around my gear. Damon has switched around his whole office.
Yeah, and
how's your new place?
And whole setup chain. It's nice. This is really nice because now I won't have to take everything down and put everything back when I do different stuff, and no wires I'm tripping over. Everything's just going to stay exactly where it's at. It's going to be awesome.
It's pretty handy.
Yeah.
And you've got one massive advantage in your recording setup over mine.
Yeah.
Which is an American-European thing.
Yeah.
Well, because you can record all of your video and audio direct into your camera and just let it roll for the whole hour.
Yeah.
Whereas mine, because of some EU duty restriction, so they don't get taxed as video cameras or whatever, they all have to cut out after 29 minutes and 59 seconds because otherwise they become video cameras, which apparently makes them more expensive. I'd just rather pay what I'm sure is 1% extra just to have the camera that works properly.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
We're continuing today our series on the fascinating origin of everyday things, right? Everyday foods.
But
today.
now we're switching to
Although I
food.
see it's labeled as part 1.
Yeah. This one's food origins. And we'll come back to some other non-food items, but I just wanted to do a food one to mix it up a little bit.
You know, at some point we're going to have to rename our podcast The Fascinating Origin of Things.
Yeah, pretty much.
At this rate, at least. Are we doing the normal structure? Quick fact.
Yeah.
Then what everyone tunes in for. A word from our sponsors.
Yeah.
And then...
Well,
and
they
then,
wouldn't be tuning
the
in
main
if we
content.
didn't have the sponsors. So, it works out for everyone.
That's true. Oh, what? Because we need the money, or because the sponsor spots are just so incredible? That's what people want.
Or just, because, these take a lot of time. And we like to,
true.
get paid sometimes. It's nice.
Yeah, I know. I love getting paid.
Yeah, especially when you
a
spend
nice thing.
several days on something. It's it's nice to, make that worth your while.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's like the medium of exchange. I have this ongoing joke with my wife about money. And it's always I need to go to the cash machine to get money. And I always finish it with... to purchase goods and services. I don't know why. It's just become a meme between me and my wife. It's always to purchase goods and services. I don't know why. It's less funny when it's not a meme between a couple. But let's just move on. Tell me the quick fact.
Wait, before we do that, we should mention our review contest.
Oh, yeah. I'm literally not doing my one job. If you want to review this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, be that iTunes, Podcast Addict, Stitcher. I'm going to stop naming podcast platforms because I won't remember them all. But when we get to 1,000 reviews on the US Apple Podcast Store, what are we at now? 500? 600?
Yeah, something like that.
It's around there. It doesn't really matter. When we get to 1,000, we're going to give away a $1,000 Amazon gift card to someone who has left us a review, not just on American iTunes, but on the big iTuneses that we will check. If you're listening from Rwanda, maybe log in under a UK or US account and leave us a review that way, because we're probably not going to check Rwanda's iTunes store. Nothing against Rwanda, just I don't imagine we've got many reviews there.
Probably not.
And also
no.
Stitcher and all of those other... No, you don't think? I would check, but...
Even India, which you'd think we would have more, but I think India, it's just Dhruv. It's just Dhruv that's given us the review.
Dhruv's the guy who who finds us our sponsors.
Who makes this podcast possible.
Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
He gave us 5 stars though,
yeah.
so that works out.
I feel like I'd be, hey Dhruv, what's up, man? You only gave us 3 stars? 2 stars, Dhruv? So please do that. We'd appreciate it. Doesn't have to be a 5-star review, although it's obviously preferred. You can leave us whatever you fancy. And have I done all my duty now, or is there something else I'm forgetting to do?
That's good. We can move on.
Carry on.
Let's jump into the facts. Quick fact. That's what we're going to start with. So, depending on your knowledge of curdled cow excretions, you might think that cheddar cheese is supposed to be yellow or orange, like that deep. Is it in Europe? Is it like that kind of orangish yellow color?
Definitely orange. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was still like it.
I assume it's fake, right?
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
it's way too orange.
And it started in Britain was the big one to start it. But so it turns out that of course milk is white. So why would the cheddar cheese made from milk? Why would that suddenly turn orange, like a really deep shade of orange?
I don't know. I want to say food dye, but I'm guessing it was originally some other actual reason.
So they did have a reason. But so first, before we get into that, just because it's kind of interesting, why is milk white in the first place? And it turns out milk is made of about 87% water and then 13% solids. And these are just like fats and proteins and stuff. And then one of the proteins is casein, which is makes up about 80% of the proteins in milk. And these molecules... they end up repelling each other because they're negative electrical charge, so they distribute very evenly within the milk, just sort of naturally. That's why even if the milk just sits there, they don't all like settle at the bottom or whatever and then like clump together.
This sounds like a stupid thing to say, but milk is super white.
Yeah.
Like when you look at milk, you look at a lot of other things, like a cup of tea or whatever. Very few things appear to be, just so purely white and evenly distributed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, it sounds dumb, but milk is really white.
Well, and especially liquids, because most of the time when you have these solids and liquids, so much solids, they'll just kind of settle at the bottom or separate and whatnot. It doesn't really happen in milk too much. I mean, like, if you get like the unpasteurized milk and stuff, you'll get like the cream on the top and stuff like that. That does happen. But in general, the reason why the proteins kind of stay fairly evenly distributed is just because of this negative electrical charge that the casein protein molecules have. So they just kind of stay evenly distributed. And these basically scatter light, deflect the light somewhat uniformly through the visual spectrum, which then makes, of course, milk appear white to our eyes and sort of consistently white through the whole thing. So coming back to cheddar.
Milk is very white.
Yeah. How do you get then from that to this orangish color? And it turns out, classically, when you have like cows and stuff before the Industrial Revolution, basically, you'd have the cows, they'd just be grazing in the field and the farmers go and milk them and everything. And grass, it turns out, is super rich in beta carotene. And so that will then lend some of this beta carotene, of course, like you think like carrots or whatever, that have a lot of that. It's this kind of orange.
Oh, of course, yeah. That's immediately what came to mind when you mentioned
this. Which actually, carrots used to be purple before, I think it was the 17th century. And then did
we do a video or a podcast about that? I feel
years ago.
Yeah.
And so this was like the Dutch who eventually cultivated. There was orange carrots out there, but they were like wild carrots, and there's different color carrots like that. But they cultivated this like orange one that we all know, and just sort of became the super popular one, thanks to them. Anyways, so lots of beta carotene is.
I feel like purple carrots could be like a niche item these days. Did you guys get purple ketchup a while back?
No.
When I was a kid, there was purple ketchup as a thing.
That's weird.
And it tasted exactly the same. It was just dyed like deep purple.
Well, the interesting thing about that one too is mustard. Everyone thinks of mustard as yellow, but mustard, the actual seeds, and when it's in its natural form, is not that bright yellow.
It's brown, right?
Yeah, it's sort of more of a brownish, little bit yellow tinge. But we think of it like this bright yellow, and that is just dyed. They dye it for just cosmetic reasons. I suppose maybe it looks awesome with the ketchup. You got this bright red ketchup and then yellow dye for the mustard.
Yeah.
But anyways,
hang on. Is American mustard in America just mustard? Because we have a specific American mustard, which is that very yellow, you put it on a hot dog sort of thing. Do you just call that mustard?
We would just call that mustard, yeah. What would you call it?
Because we have English mustard, and we also call it English mustard.
Oh, what's the difference?
Because there's like French mustard, American mustard, whole grain mustard, all of the different types.
Whole grain mustard?
I'm pretty sure we call English mustard. Oh, dude, whole grain mustard? You've not had this?
No.
Next time, I'm bringing you some whole grain mustard. Oh, it's the mustard seed, and it's kind of got this mustardy stuff around it. It's awesome if you put it like on a sandwich or like in a hot dog. You just spread it on the bread before you put it on. Oh, dude, it's legit amazing. I will bring you some.
Okay.
Good.
All right, where were we talking about?
Sorry. Mustard tangent.
Orange. Yeah, so the grass has lots of beta carotene in it, going back there, and so the pastures, the cows would just eat it and whatnot, and so this would then get sort of some of the it would create these like fatty globules that would bind to the proteins and everything, and so the bottom line from all of that, without getting too technical, is then you'd have like a slightly yellowish tinge to the milk, like just really like a little bit of a subtle golden color, which you can think like a butter, but like a really light butter type of look is what this is sort of the natural with these cows. But the problem is that what was it? So starting around the 16th or 17th. Oh, I should go back before we say that. So then when so you'd have this like slight golden color, and then when you condense it down, you mix the I've lost my place.
Normally I'd be able to highlight it for you, but I'm on my iPad and it's not letting me highlight because... or can you see that?
No.
Okay, yeah, never mind. I can't guide you today.
The problem, see, there was I just tried to skip way ahead. I shouldn't have done that. Rennet, that's what it's called. I can't find my place, but it doesn't matter. That's the word I was looking for. So when you get the you're making the cheese, you add the rennet and the heat and everything, and then you make the cheddar, and then this will ultimately get condensed down, the whey all squeezed out and everything. So it makes that slightly golden color a little bit more golden in the end product, but you're still looking at like a mostly white product, right, in this cheddar cheese. Mm-hmm. But starting around the 16th or 17th century in England, some industrious cheesemakers decided to start skimming some of the fat off to make it a little bit more like mozzarella, which has about half or so. It's like 17% or something like that. Mozzarella has of the fats versus like 32% in cheddar. So they just started skimming it off, but then preparing it just like you do a cheddar. And so you started getting these more like whiter, less slightly golden cheddar. And it's still at this point, even when we're talking about that golden color, we're not talking about the orange that we're used to today. So they would do this, but then to then get it back to the color that people expected, they would add a little bit of dye. And so they would add various pigments in, and they might use like carrot juice and whatnot, but and marigold petals also is a good way, saffron, but what most people ultimately settled on is a really cheap little seed containing pigments. It was called annatto, I think is how you pronounce that, and that will turn turn it, like, depending on how much you add, it'll turn it like slightly yellowish orange a little bit. And so this is what they did to get it back to the color people expected of the higher fat content ones. So they sort of masked that they were just making it, taking some of the fat off to sell as like cream and stuff like that. So
I like that. Everyone today complains about, the food's so fake. There's all these artificial colors and stuff. And it's like, this was the 16th and 17th century. We've been doing this a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and that's why you have those really strict laws in like Britain and stuff with concerning bread making and stuff, because people were like adding all sorts of things to it to cut down on like the flour but still get the weight right and stuff like that.
Yeah, they were adding all sorts of like weird extra ingredients to kind of bulk it out, and then it's like, we should probably stop poisoning people. There was like some excise of something act?
Yeah,
they introduced like super severe penalties.
Yeah, insanely, like you murder someone or something. It was crazy. And yeah, exactly. So people were doing this, like you say, for some time.
It's my thoughts on graffiti and tagging. Like, if you just introduce if you're caught graffitiing, we'll just execute you. Yeah. Graffitiing would drop really quickly. I don't know, I live in a city that is just ravaged by graffiti. Like, I swear, a month will go by, they'll repaint the outside of my building, and suddenly there'll be graffiti there again. And I'm like, this kind of sucks. So they're always just repainting. It's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I don't really believe that people should be executed for graffiti, just to make that clear. But I do see why people introduce like super strict, especially in the past.
Yeah, with
they
food.
Introduce super strict penalties.
Yeah. So anyway. where were we? So this sort of continued. You got the Industrial Revolution happening, and they started, this problem started getting worse. And so they just started like gradually over time, for marketing reasons. Apparently people just prefer the orangish yellow. They just started getting more orange and yellow, like a deeper shades for cheddar versus some of the other cheeses, which are more white. And that just sort of caught on, and now is just sort of what people expect. But it also, in modern times particularly, but especially because of the Industrial Revolution, there was more reason than just like agri-fraud, basically, is because at a certain point, when you have all these cows, when you start bringing in milk from all sorts of different areas, different cows and everything like that, if you want a very consistent colored product and whatnot, you're mixing this together, and then one batch of cheese that you might make might be one color, and then from a different batch of cows and milk from another area might be a slightly different. So to get the color all uniform within a brand, which people were keen on doing, they would just make it like a deeper shade as well, and that would just ensure that like all their cheese product, all their cheddar cheese would look the exact same regardless of what milk was coming in. And different cattle too, like Jersey cattle and stuff, produce like a richer colored milk, and depending on what they're eating. And then when particularly you start going to the dry fed cattle, which in certain times of year that's what they're getting, and in some places that's kind of all they feed their cattle, then you'll actually get almost like a pure white cheddar just naturally, because they're not really eating much beta carotene at all. And so basically, just to keep everything consistent, a lot of places will just add this dye to make it like a deep, rich color. And this
now
is
that I really think about it, I don't think our cheddar is orange. I
Yeah?
think the cheap cheddar you buy is
Mhm.
orange, and it's like this deep orange.
yeah.
But I'm just thinking, no, most cheddar that I buy, because I like, the mature cheddar and I'm
Oh,
fancy,
yeah.
it's a little bit more expensive, and it's white, or it's like very light yellow.
Yeah, and they might be doing that because nowadays...
I think I might
No-
just be crazy.
Well, no, I think when you do age it more, it does. But it might be just because it's the more expensive type. They might nowadays it's reversed where people think like, oh, white cheddar, like it's like a premium, so you pay a little more.
Yeah, it's got less additives and all that stuff.
Yeah, but it's really just kind of like if they just did it, if they just did it normally, and so yeah, especially if they're dry feeding, it'll turn like almost completely white. And butter manufacturers do this exact same thing. If you have like a really like yellowy butter, that's definitely they're adding something to that because especially nowadays with the the cows that are eating a lot of dry feed and stuff, it tends to be very white. And it's still fine. There's a little bit versus like the grass fed and stuff. There is a little bit less of nutritional value and everything, but at the same time they can get a more consistent tasting product because again, if you got this wide variety of diet depending on region and stuff and cattle, that can actually change the flavor, and brands don't like that, so they like to try to keep it consistent. So if you make sure all the cattle are eating the exact same thing and that sort of thing, it helps. But
We love our consistency
yeah
as humans,
Yeah.
as a species. Is that the end of our quick facts?
that is the end of the quick fact today.
Oh, then this is what you've all been waiting for, guys. Blinkist. I got to tell you about Blinkist. This episode is sponsored by Blinkist. If you're one of the first 100 people to go to Blinkist.com/brainfood, you'll get to try Blinkist for 1 week for free. You'll also get 25% off if you want the full membership. But right now, you've got no idea what Blinkist is unless you watch our YouTube channel, in which case you probably heard me talk about it before. Blinkist is an app. Look, I know it's not always easy to sit down, read a full book, even listen to a full book. I'm a pretty busy dude. David, are you busy?
I'm not busy at all. What are you talking about?
Damn it, man. Just say you're busy.
I did pull an all-nighter.
David is busy.
Yesterday,
He is the busiest man.
I was up for 27 hours straight working on a video. So,
Yeah. David is busy, and that's why I gotta get my phone running. I'm really sorry if it's doing, that thing, because it's probably gonna do that. But let me just open the app and I can just show people what this does. Yeah, okay. So what you do is with Blinkist, you can look on their homepage here, and there's lots of different options, and then you pick one. Have you read The Snowball, Damon, by Warren
have
Buffett?
read that
It's
book,
like
yeah.
his... Okay. It's a great book.
It is.
It's an absolute beast. I listened to the audio version. I swear that thing is like 20 hours or something. With Blinkist, they compress it down into like 15 minutes. And what you do is you can either read it, and then they divide it into blinks. So you go through, and you have these different options here, and you can just read them. Or if you're like, I don't like reading, or maybe you can't even read. Maybe that's why you're listening to a podcast. Because, you're one of the 0.1% people who aren't literate somehow. In that case, or more realistically, you're just on the, way to work and you can't read while driving. I suppose that's a more realistic scenario. You can listen, and hopefully this will work. You ready? It's always risky when you do it. Hey!
After starting a family, Buffett became his own boss by
Kind of even sounds a bit like Warren Buffett. And then you just can listen to it. So that's super easy. They also had, probably one you're less likely to have read. Have you read Arnold Schwarzenegger's biography, Total Recall? It's incredible.
I have not read that one, no.
Well, if you don't feel like reading it, they've also got it on Blinkist, which I was kind of surprised by because it's more of a, traditional, whereas Buffett's book's a lot about investing and stuff. I felt Arnold Schwarzenegger is just his life story. But they even have that on there, which I thought was cool. So look, the first 100 people who go to Blinkist.com/brainfood, you'll get a week to try it out. You'll also get 25% if you want full membership. Like I say, 7-day free trial. Cancel at any time if you're like, this isn't for me. But I think it will be for you. Again, Blinkist.com/brainfood. How was that? I thought that not bad.
That was good, although I'm going to be completely honest, for like half of that, your video feed cut out, and so I just was hoping you didn't ever like try to talk to me, and then I just kind of jumped right back in.
Well, that's,
and tried to pick up where
I just
we
kept on rambling away.
Yeah, I didn't want to But yeah. So if that happens at any point in this podcast, you say something and I completely ignore you, it's because of that.
Yeah. Okay, great. I love the technology issues.
Yeah.
Next week, I think you had some problem with your internet. I had a little problem with my my Wi-Fi and not being able to Ethernet, but
Yeah.
I'll buy a little Ethernet cable and we'll get it sorted.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. Should we move on?
Yeah.
I'm sure people have got sick of us talking about our technical troubles. They're here for facts.
Yeah. All right. So today, what are we going to talk about for our main topic? And we are going to talk about Hawaiian pizza. And is it called Hawaiian pizza in Europe?
Dude, is it ever?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite pizzas,
Yeah.
which I know is a controversial statement.
Yeah.
Because people are like, Hawaiian pizza's weird. I feel like that's a meme. But Hawaiian, what? I feel like you would like it.
Yeah, no, I it's fine. I don't see what the problem is really. There are much worse pizzas out there, and people like what they like. That's the whole point of pizza is you got this bread which is delicious and cheese, and then you just add random stuff. Although I did have macaroni pizza once, and that was pretty disgusting. Like where people put the cheese
I
and
had
then
steak.
macaroni on it. Not great.
I had steak pizza from a Domino's. Also, not good.
Yeah.
You think steak and pizza, and that's how they build it. You're like that. Yep, this is great. It's
Yeah.
my two favorite foods together as one. And then it's like, yeah, the steak was really low quality, like fully cooked canned beef or something horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, Domino's. That one was really shit.
Yeah, but that's the point is you can put random stuff and different people like stuff. So we're going to talk, how did this get its start? So obviously it started before June 8th, 2017, but that's a significant date in Hawaiian pizza history because that's when Canadian-bred pizza maker Sam Panopoulos, he died. And so why are we talking about Sam Panopoulos? And it turns out this is the guy who invented Hawaiian pizza. And so, and by the way, he was in Canada at the time, so technically Hawaiian pizza is actually Canadian.
Pizza is Canadian.
Yeah. So how did he...
I'm assuming there's some relationship to Hawaii.
Yeah. So how did he come to invent and then popularize pineapple pizza? And it turns out Mr. Panopoulos was not Canadian himself. He was Greek, which you might have guessed from his name. So him and his two brothers in 1956, at the age of 20, they decided to head on over to America. And instead of going to the United States, like most people who had to head to the Americas, he instead chose Canada for some reason. Yeah. It's... But like really when you're immigrating, not a lot of people think, yeah, Canada, that's where I'm going. Especially around this time, you'd think most people would pick the U.S., but either way, they go there. And before they...
That's true. I have to say, I don't know much about this period of history. We don't.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe it was like... No, I feel like the further back you go, they'll probably... Like nowadays, a lot of people I think might be like, yeah, Canada. Canada's pretty awesome. Got great health care, all that sort of business. Either way.
I think Canada's like, it's cold, I think, in my mind.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll be like...
You want
where's nice, like California, Florida. You guys have like almost tropical weather in some parts of your country.
Yeah, you
That's
have
great.
everything you could want,
No.
like depending
But
on
I
which
just like
part
the
of the
warmth.
U.S. you want to go to.
That's true. Whereas Canada is like you got cold and less cold.
All right,
Maybe.
you're frozen now. So if you said something I should have responded to, that's why I didn't.
Gotcha. Carry on. I wasn't. Nothing worth responding to. Honestly, nothing I say is worth responding to. Just
I'll just keep
on
talking.
rolling. Yeah, just do it. I'll listen.
Okay. So before they made it to Canada, they made a pit stop though, which was sort of a significant one because it was where Panopoulos, they stopped in Naples, Italy, and here was where he took his first ever bite of pizza, and it was something that had like spaghetti on it, sort of like a spaghetti pizza, and he did not like it, and but pizza was now
Sounds
on
like
his
a
right.
macaroni pizza. That doesn't sound good at all.
No, yeah, but this is what it was, and pizza was now at least on his radar. First time he'd ever had it. So at this point, as you might guess from this, pizza wasn't really the delicacy that people think. Like Naples, they think like pizza. That's where it came from.
La-di-da.
Yeah. But at this point, and this was the 1950s, which is just crazy to think pizza as like a staple food item among many parts of the world was not a thing even in the mid 20th century. Like it was still just sort of this local thing, which is just crazy to think about it because now it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere,
I eat pizza once a week at the minimum.
Yeah. This is like buffalo wings too. Buffalo wings, it was like the 1990s before buffalo wings became popular. And it's just like, really? 1990s? That is just insane.
Going for wings tonight, man. A friend of mine's having a birthday party. This place has this wings night where the wings are like half price. I'm going to eat so many wings. It's going to be great. You're not responding to me because you didn't know what I said, did you?
Yes, that's right. You just came back.
All right, carry on.
All right. Would you like to repeat that part and then I can respond properly?
No, dude, I was literally telling you that I'm going to have chicken wings tonight and it's going to be great. That's the level of quality content that I bring to this show. So don't worry.
All right. Well, that is delicious. But in any event, so pizza is claimed to have been invented in the 18th century, but this is sort of a matter of debate because if you actually go back, the Persian army in the 5th and 6th century BC, they used to like cook, they would use their shields and put some flatbread on to sort of like cook it in the sun, and then they would cover it in like cheese and dates and different things like that. And so some people consider, well, that's kind of like pizza, you know, you're putting the stuff on. So, but, you know, it didn't have tomato sauce, obviously, because that would not be over there for quite some time. So, but they put various things on, and people have probably been adding, you know, bread and cheese together since as long as there has been bread and cheese. So depending on what your exact definition of pizza is, you know, that it's debated when it actually invented. But if we fast forward to when Mount Vesuvius is leveling Pompeii on August 24th, 79 AD, we have some interesting stuff that gives us because archaeological excavation of the thing has shown places that had a lot of like things that are consistent with kind of what we use to make pizza today in pizzerias. So they had restaurants or they had these places where things like this seem to be made. And we even have a cookbook by one Marcus Gavius Apicius, who has tons of recipes for various flatbread-based items, food items. And one of them, most notably here, included, so he had flatbread with chicken, garlic, cheese, pepper, and oil on top of it. Oh. And that is like, I mean...
You're right.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, totally.
David sent me an email before he recorded this one saying, eat beforehand.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of breakfast.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough. No. Now I want pizza.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You should try like working on these for hours and hours on end. So hungry. It doesn't matter if you eat, because then like 2 hours later, you're just hungry again because you're just researching delicious food all the time. But so yeah, this thing, that's basically pizza as we think of it today. It just doesn't have traditional tomato sauce because that didn't come, of course, until the 1500s to Europe. And that actually, when it did initially come, there was sort of, a lot of people thought it was like poisonous and stuff. There was like this rumor thing that it was really bad, tomatoes. But, and this, it's not really clear why this is the case, but it's thought maybe because the tomato is part of the nightshade family, and they must have known those are poisonous. And
the more you know.
Yeah, and the same thing kind of happened to potatoes, and eggplants are the same. Many peppers are part of the nightshade family, tobacco, so all these things. And
wasn't there something with potatoes? They thought they were like sinful or something?
Yeah, we're going to get into that when we get into the history of French fries, but yeah, potatoes had its own controversy, and the history of French fries is coming on a future episode of this everyday foods thing because it's really interesting.
You're just torturing me. You're going to torture me for weeks.
Yeah, pretty much. And
like talking about French fries at 11 o'clock in the morning is not going to lead to a healthy lunch.
No, yeah, exactly. So bringing us back to Maples, so they did eventually start using tomatoes there, and so they came up with what was known as Napolitana pizza, and this was where they would just put like a tomato paste on there. And once tomatoes in there and you add cheese, and then there you have a cheese pizza as we think of it today. So that a lot of people think, okay, that's when pizza was first made, despite, cheese and bread. And, if you don't have the tomato sauce, you can still have, if you put like a white sauce on there and stuff, people still call that pizza. So I don't know. I feel
that's a more recent, at least in terms of my consumption of pizza. Tomato-based pizza sauce was a thing forever. Mm-hmm. And then like I recently had, or, maybe within the last 10 years, like cheese sauce instead, or like not a cheese sauce, but like a cream sauce.
Yeah.
And then, with onions and stuff.
Yeah.
That became a thing. It's also pizza, but tomato sauce is kind of...
Yeah, the pizza.
90% of pizza, I feel, is...
But like when you came here and we went to that Sarah Pizza,
didn't have tomato sauce.
No, that was chicken bacon ranch. That was a ranch sauce, and it's so good. It's so good.
It was incredibly good. I felt like I was eating about 1 billion calories.
Oh, totally. Like you definitely have a heart attack if you ate that like often.
And you got ranch on the side.
Oh, yeah. You dip it in the buttermilk ranch.
You dip in a ranch-based pizza into ranch sauce.
With bacon and
it was the most American experience I've ever had.
And like a thick layer of cheese. It had to be like the most unhealthy thing of all time. It's so good. So good.
So good.
Yeah, either way. So yeah, at the time though, when this pizza was at this point in history, according to University of Denver history professor Dr. Carol Hellasty, Stosky, and she was the author of the book Pizza, A Global History, and she notes in there that pizza at this point was kind of like a weekday food is what she calls it. And it was basically just a cheap item, just cheap flatbread and whatnot, that you just dump a ton of like whatever you got lying around. So to quote Dr. Helstosky,
It was a cuisine of scarcity. Whatever you had, you tossed on garlic, anchovies, and little fish bits.
yeah, so...
That's kind of what I do. Like, when I make a pizza at home, I'll buy a few, like, basic ingredients. And then I'll be like, I got some, leftover anchovies. I got some weird pepper that's probably a bit too shriveled to have in a salad. I'll put that on. It'll be good.
Yeah, you add cheese to anything, and like bread and cheese, it's going to be good. But as you can imagine with this sort of random ingredient thing, especially a lot of like random fish ingredients and stuff. So we have a quote from Samuel Morse, which is of Morse code fame in 1830s. And so he was in Naples visiting, and he saw some of this pizza being sold on the streets, and he notes in disgust,
A species of most nauseating cake, like a piece of bread that had been taken reeking of the sewer. All right, Morse, chill out.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
I mean,
maybe if it's like rotten fish or something
stick to the code.
Yeah, but either way, so at this point,
But rotten fish is delicious.
Yeah.
Is it rotten fish is what goes into I want to say Worcester sauce.
Yeah, exactly, it is, and it's so gross when you read how that's made. It just sounds so disgusting. Like, you couldn't make it sound...
Yeah.
It's like, why don't we just take the corpses of things and wait till it congeals into this liquid mass, and then we'll eat that? Like, that's basically what what you got there.
It's delicious.
Yeah. I think they add, like, brown sugar and stuff, though, don't they? Or something like that. I can't remember now. But, yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm assuming it's not just rotting fish.
But it is... they basically add
other
that,
ingredients in there as well.
put it in barrels, and then wait until it makes into a nice...
Years.
Yeah.
Just...
Yeah.
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 It's really good, though.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, with this being, it was more like a poor people's food for much of history, and so the affluent really kind of turned their nose up at it. And so this supposedly, how did this change? And there's a story that you'll read everywhere that happened in the late 19th century, supposedly happened. So 1889, King Umberto and his cousin Margarita, who also happened to be his wife, were traveling.
Oh.
Yeah, traveling the country, and they...
19th century.
Yeah, exactly. They were sort of like trying to calm. There was lots of talk of revolution and everything, so they were trying to, whoa, people, calm yourself.
Steady on.
Yeah, so they arrive in Naples. And,
Don't forget how awesome I am.
yeah, exactly. They arrive in
It's your king.
Naples, and they supposedly... Then they've been eating a lot of like French-inspired cuisine, which is really rich and everything. So supposedly Queen Margarita, she wanted just something, plain, something really simple. And so she ordered a commoner's meal from one Rafael Esposito, and he was a pretty famous pizza maker. And so he creates this supposedly new concoction of mozzarella, tomato sauce, and basil on, flatbread and everything. So this was this became known, of course, as Margarita's Pizza, or Pizza Margarita. And so this happens, this 1889, again, is the date. And she loved it, and then supposedly went on to popularize it among the wealthy. And also Esposito himself was then dubbed the father of modern pizza because of this whole story that goes around. But is any of this story actually true? And the truth is that this exact concoction, this type of pizza Margarita, had actually been around long before then. So if we go all the way back to 1849, there's, again, this is almost like a half century before, we have Emmanuel Rocco, and he has what is mozzarella, and he is this exact same thing, and he has mozzarella on it, though. Key here is arrayed out in a flower shape. This is what it said you have to do for the Pizza Margarita, and what's significant about that is that the word for daisy was margarita, and so this is sort of an alternate hypothesis as to how it got its name, and this, again, was like a half century before, and it was this exact same ingredients and everything on there. But if it had been around, maybe the Queen really did go and order this pizza from Esposito. And maybe this was actually a thing, even if it wasn't named after her. And maybe then she did popularize it among the wealthy. And in fact...
do we know what the source of it is, or is it just one of those often repeated myths?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or like stories?
It's actually Esposito's descendants actually repeat this. And you can actually go, what we're going to talk about here is there is a letter in the place, Pizzeria Brandy, which is still around today, which was his descendants' change the name. But
Whoa.
so they have a letter from the Queen with the official royal seal on display if you go to this pizzeria. And you can see that we also know officially that Esposito really did receive permission to display the royal seal in his shop. And so this is often put as, he definitely did make this pizza, and then, she really did popularize it among the wealthy. But if you dig into the matter more, as we do here, so Rafael Esposito...
it's probably not as simple as that, is it?
No. He got this permission to display the royal seal in 1871, which is like almost 2 decades before this supposed Queen event, and for his shop that did not sell pizza, but sold wine. And so this is when he got the permission for the thing. So that doesn't quite line up. And then the problems with the letter itself. So if you look at the letter, supposedly written by the Queen in 1889, thanking him for this pizza and everything. First, if you look at the date on the letter, there is no record of such a letter being sent in the palace archives. And you might think, well, maybe they just didn't write it down. But if you actually look at the palace archives on the very day, they wrote down everything. Like even like who got paid that day, like every correspondent that went in and out. And there's no record of that letter ever happening. And then if we move on from there, the royal seal itself, if you look very closely at the actual royal seal and then the one on the letter, they're close, they're extremely similar, but they're not the same. And also, on top of that, it was clearly stamped on and not printed, as was the actual royal correspondence at the time were always printed on. So...
But he got permission to post it in his shop.
Well, this was, again, he got permission to post the royal seal like 2 decades before this letter supposedly happened. So, did this letter actually come from the Queen? And so, the other thing to note here is on top of that, it was not on the official stationery used by the Queen at the time. And on top of that, written on top instead was House of Her Royal Majesty, just handwritten in for some reason. This was not the way it was done in the official correspondence. And so also, if you look at letters from the Queen and the handwriting on this one and the general format and the signature, they don't match.
Dude, I think you've done it.
No.
Pretty sure it's not real.
No, there's a smoking gun to all of this. It's like, nope, definitely not real.
Already dead.
Yeah. No, but if you wanted more proof, the smoking gun is the person who wrote the letter started it by writing, "Dear Mr. Rafael Esposito, Brandy." And Brandy was Esposito's wife's name. He did not ever use that name himself, ever, so why would the Queen address him this way? But you know who did use that name is his brother-in-law's sons, who took over the restaurant in 1932. And when they took it over...
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. And so when they took it over, they did change the name, because at the time it had been named Pizzeria of the Queen of Italy, but before this whole event with the Queen was supposed to... This is just what he called it even before then, so that couldn't have been connected with any Queen visit. And when they did, they started trying to connect it with... They did have their famous pizza making uncle, and so they tried to connect it with lots of eminent guests who supposedly went there. Maybe the Queen did go there, who knows, at some point. So, but if they had used the letter of just Esposito's name and not put Brandy on it, then no one would have known, Esposito who? This is Brandy, right? This is Pizzeria Brandy. What does Esposito have to do with anything? So it would appear that they just made up this letter and then they added Brandy to make the connection between their current restaurant and the other, and then displayed it. So as you might expect from this, most historians think this letter...
I'm going to put up a letter in my studio.
Yeah.
From the Queen of England.
Yeah.
This is the finest podcast and YouTube studio I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Signed, Her Royal Majesty.
Yeah.
It's got as much legitimacy as this letter.
Yeah, it would seem so. I mean, the letter is super old, right? I mean, it's almost the century old at this point when the
All right, so in 100 years, this letter will be even... Yeah, it would be somehow less fake.
Yeah. So the real how did the pizza actually go from a poor people's food to rich people? And it just seems to have happened over time. There doesn't seem to be anything like the Queen being yeah, this is awesome, because pizza over time, you got different types thrown on, different types who made. Some of it's really delicious, so of course the rich people are going to start liking it.
I assume people just realize this is amazing.
Yeah.
We should all be eating this.
Yeah, it's handy. You can carry it around on the go, and there's all sorts of, and it's quick to make. Yeah, it's awesome. So eventually...
It's cheap as well.
Yeah, super cheap.
Although I suppose if you're rich, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. But
it's still nice.
It is nice.
You feel like you're getting a good deal.
Yeah, when you're feeding lots of people. That's what one of the things pizza is good for. So in the dawn of the 20th century, pizza did make its way over to North America, but it wasn't really popular. At this point, it wasn't really a thing. And so until the 1950s, it started to become a little more noticeable. The Italian-American community would pizza was a thing, but outside of that, it really wasn't a thing in North America. And so this sort of started to change. So you have Harry Warren and Jack Brooks' 1952 song, sung by Dean Martin, called That's Amore. It was in the Caddy, the 1953 film Caddy. So it's got that, moon hit your eye like a big pizza pie. And so this at the time, like we think of that now, we all understand that lyric. But it's,
I know that song.
yeah. But at the time, a lot of people listening were probably like, "What's a pizza pie?" Like what's that? But
I feel like that's what they call pizza in old movies, don't they? Like, we're gonna have a pizza pie, and I'd be like, okay, I assume you just mean pizza, but in the past.
yeah, you cut out again. So if you said something,
Yeah, no, I assume
I
did, because I was being incredibly entertaining, and you.
yeah,
didn't
that's what we should
respond.
do. If ever I just stop responding, you should just keep talking and then I'll just jump back in. Just
Keep going, just keep ranting.
keep going. All right. So yeah. Where were we? Yes. So this 1950s, it's sort of like starting to become peripherally like something the American people are starting to realize is a thing, but not really popular anywhere. So this all brings us back to Sam Panopoulos and Hawaiian Pizza. So he's arriving in Ontario in a town called Chatham. I'm going to guess it's pronounced Chatham. It's about an hour's drive.
We'd definitely say Chatham, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's probably named after Chatham in the UK,
Oh,
which
okay.
is close to where I grew up. It's kind of rough in Chatham. But I don't know, maybe in Canada they changed the name.
Yeah. No, I'm sure you're probably
Like
right.
the pronunciation.
Yeah, you're probably right though. But either way, it's about an hour's drive from the U.S.-Michigan border. So in 1956, they go there. They open a diner, him and his brothers, and it's called the Satellite. It's still there actually, but not different management obviously. And so they kind of made some interesting.
You're really old.
Yeah.
Oh wait, and he died recently.
Yeah, in
He could have been doing
2017.
it.
Yeah, it could have been like his kids or something, but no, he sold it in like the 1970s. But either way, so at the time, he had a rather eclectic. They decided to go with. So instead of like serving what anyone else would serve, they serve things like Chinese food, which I mean nowadays would be common, but at the time wasn't really a thing too much outside of like Chinese communities. Obviously, it wasn't like a popular thing. So they're serving Chinese food, but alongside Chinese food, they're serving burgers and they're serving Spanish rice with fried eggs and then various random Greek delicacies and then also pizza. So it's just like this completely random, like it was stuff seemingly specifically chosen because it was stuff that no one else served, around in the region. And so he actually talks about it in an interview in 2015 with Atlas Obscura, which is a great website people should check out. He talks about it's just like a pizza at the time. There was nowhere like the Windsor or Detroit was about the closest place you could get pizza, which is about 50 miles away from his restaurant. So he describes this here.
The pizza in Canada in those days was primitive, dough, sauce, cheese, and mushroom, bacon or pepperoni. That was it. You had no choices. You get one of 3 toppings or more of them together. Dude, this is killing me. I feel like I need to get on Uber Eats and order a pizza right now.
Yeah, you
But
should.
I'm
Then
not
it'll probably
going
be
to
done
because,
there around the time we get done here.
Yeah,
So again, he's attempting to distinguish his fare. So he goes ahead and serves customers pizza with things like Vienna sausage, rice, olives. Rice, really on pizza? But yeah, he's throwing random stuff on here, basically. Just kind of whatever.
It does sound really bad, rice.
Yeah. And so he's just throwing lots of random stuff. It's sort of a weird restaurant. How does this restaurant survive? He's like, let's serve stuff that no one's ever heard of. Like,
Is it around today in this?
I assume
form?
I assume not. I don't know. Apparently it's still
They
there.
sorted things out.
Yeah. So in 1962, he decides to experiment further, and he puts pineapple and ham on a pizza and calls it the Hawaiian, which Panopoulos, he says, was named after just the brand of canned pineapple that he used. It was just Hawaiian pineapple that was the label on the can, so he just called it Hawaiian pizza because he's putting it on his pizza. As for the inspiration, he notes,
Those days, nobody was mixing sweets and sours and all that. The only sweet and sour thing you would get is Chinese pork, with the sweet and sour sauce. There was no mix. Oh, God, this is also so good. Sweet and sour Chinese.
yeah. And so he is serving
I might order 2 things from Uber Eats.
he is serving Chinese food there, so he that's sort of his thing. So with regards to the pizza, he stated,
We just put it on, just for the fun of it. See how it was going to taste. We were young in the business. My computer decided to have a little bit of a stroke while I was reading that. Can you see it? Can you continue that?
Yeah, there we go.
I've jumped up like 6 pages.
Oh, no.
Sorry. We were young in the business, and we were doing a lot of experiments. Wait, I just read it. What's up? Is that not correct?
You
We just put it on. I'm going to read it again, but I think that's because you think I haven't read it, even though I definitely have. We just put it on just for the fun of it. See how it was going to taste. We're just young in the business, and we were doing a lot of experiments. Third time's the charm, I guess.
Yeah, I heard that one. So that worked.
Okay, great. The audience heard it 3 times.
So yeah, it probably
Sorry,
also helped that in the 1950s.
I love it how I could see your face and you're just waiting there for me. You're just waiting for me to read it, and I'm like, dude, I just read it. Someone did message us or put a comment on YouTube the other day being like, you guys aren't in the same room? And I was like, wow, really?
Yeah, I know. Even our sets look completely different. So I don't know. Yeah,
It's true.
But either way, so he was probably also, he doesn't mention this, but if you look at the 1950s and 1960s, what was happening around that time was the Americanized version of tiki culture was just like sweeping through North America, and it was primarily spurred by all the people coming back from like the Pacific Theater, World War II, and so they had all this like, you know, bringing like the barrels of rum, girls in hula skirts and tiki torches, and all that was like a thing that was like a major thing being, you know, popularized. So this could have also possibly helped him sort of inspire to make like a Hawaiian pizza. And it's noteworthy here. So this tiki culture thing, to us, it's just like, yeah, tiki, right? Like tiki torches, that's just fun. But this is actually kind of considered pretty culturally offensive to a lot of people, because you have like, it's basically, as one person put it, what did they put? Like, so it would be like equivalent if you had fruity alcoholic beverages complete with umbrellas and cross stars, cross straws, all served drinking glasses made in shape of Jesus and Muhammad's heads, and then maybe throw in some Buddha statues and then calling it Jewish culture. So it's basically...
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But then I'm not any of these religions.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why I'm okay with it.
That's sort of the analogous to what the tiki bars do, you know, like it's just, yeah. Either way, some people don't like that. But in any event, regardless of anyone's feelings.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So in the 1950s, this was super, this made pineapples started to become very popular in
Although
North
I am
America.
thinking like a Jesus head cup would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm sure. Or yeah, that one I think people wouldn't get as offended, but try having like a Muhammad cup, you know.
Well, is it offensive to have a... I don't know.
I think you'd have more
Like,
of
they have all these...
of a backlash. Not from like most
I went
people.
to Sri Lanka,
Like,
and they had all these things at the airport saying like, Buddha is not decoration, so don't buy like a Buddha statue as decoration.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
But if you
Yeah,
had a Buddha statue,
guess.
I don't feel like anyone's gonna get like super upset at you, because it's like the whole.
Oh, they will there. They were like, there was pretty like big signs everywhere. I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna, you know, do anything to you. You have like a Buddha statue in your Chinese restaurant or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was
No,
okay.
but you can sort of see the issue that some people have with it. But either way.
I get it.
Either way, so you got 1950s, pineapples were starting to become very popular and all this, and so he could, you know, you can see how maybe that was part of his inspiration for the Hawaiian pizza, and whether that's was sort of some of his thought process to capitalize on the sort of the trend going on. He did it, and then he noted when it debuted.
Nobody liked it at first, but after that, they went crazy about it.
Yeah, so it did catch on.
Do you want me to read that 2 more times? Or do you
Yeah,
think that's
no, I
enough?
got you on that one.
Nobody liked it at first.
So yeah, it did catch on all over the place after that, and just kind of spread from there and became quite ubiquitous a few decades later. So an interesting aside here. So moving on from there.
Mm-hmm.
So pineapple, it's super cheap. You just throw it on the pizza. Nobody thinks like it doesn't add cost. It's not like you're paying like $100 for a pineapple pizza compared to the other types. But it turns out between the 16th and 18th centuries, pineapple was like insanely expensive, and there's no good way to like really translate like for that gap and then like different regions and stuff, like how expensive was it. But generally, like when you look at the general ballpark and like look at inflation and all that, it's like $5,000 to $10,000 per pineapple was what people were basically paying for these things. And the reason being, it turns out pineapples are really, really hard to grow outside of their native environment, that tropical environment. So when Christopher Columbus, he's the first one to bring it back in 1493 to Europe, they tried to cultivate it and, grow new ones, and just universally failed. No one could do it. And so you had to import it then from the Americas. But the problem is it's a fruit, right? And so if you want to import it in its sort of like normal, you pick it off the plant form, you end up having to get it back really quick and kind of keep it so it can't be too hot and stuff like that. And the ships and stuff like that, or it'll just rot and stuff like that. So you need really good weather and you need a really fast ship to get it back in time to it be like consumable in that form. Like they can obviously do other forms like of it and everything, but for that
And people
form,
are all like today, eat local and all this stuff. It's like the guys back in the day, they were like, quick, send my fastest sloop.
yeah, to bring me some pineapple. And yeah, exactly. So you had, as you can imagine from this, you had to be
It's
super
like 17 people died bringing you this pineapple, my liege.
worth it. Only the super
Royals
rich.
back in the day probably legit said stuff like that.
Well, yeah, because sugar and sweet things like that were really expensive, And this is like pineapple is super sweet and kind of unique tasting in a lot of ways. You don't really get a lot of different fruits that taste like that or things you make. So yeah, you had to be like super, super wealthy to get it. But then the Dutch figured out in the late 17th century, the Dutch finally figured out, and it's thought like Agnes Block is this woman, she is considered to be the first to actually figure out how to cultivate some pineapple in 1687. So, but there were some other plants that people had done, but people thought it was actually brought from like a juvenile plant, and then they just managed to keep it alive and everything. But either way, around this time, late 17th century, they come up with this. So the more documented one is this Dutch cloth merchant by the name of Pieter de la Court, who he came up with a way to grow pineapples in a non-tropical climate consistently. And so what he did is he utilized all these different hot rooms consistently. So you basically had to keep it really warm and humid, but not too hot and not too cold, and not just the air. You had to keep the soil temperature certain within a very specific range, or the pineapple would die. And the problem with this was, of course, using fires and stuff to keep a consistent temperature. You had to constantly be adjusting it based on the ambient temperature and get everything. So it was like not easy. And you got to have enough light too for the thing to grow in the first place. And so basically what ended up happening is people killing the plants with smoke was a common thing. And then just burning down the hot room building was also a pretty common thing. So it was still super expensive, but now you didn't have to be like a king to get it. Now you could just be like a really wealthy merchant, to get a hold of a pineapple in some regions. So what ended up happening is then the lots of different courts from around, particularly like in England, would send people to the Netherlands to learn how to make these things. And so we come back to England, and even then it took until 1714 to 1716 around then before someone actually successfully managed to grow a pineapple in England. So this was a couple decades later. And
I assume today they're all just grown in the tropics, right? And then put on big ships.
Yeah, you would,
with,
and probably
better cooling technology, right?
You would probably, I would guess. But
because I can't imagine there's like many of these magical hot rooms in England growing pineapples.
Yeah, especially because it would just make it so expensive versus just putting on a big shipping container, like you say,
right?
And because you can get it over faster too in that way. But presumably. So there's a Dutchman called Henry Telende. He was the one that first did it, managed it in England, and he was working for a guy named Matthew Decker. And so his first doing of this, like his first managed to cultivate the pineapple here, they actually commissioned a painting to commemorate it in 1720, and if anyone's ever noticed, if you go back to a lot of these classic paintings from this era, they were pictures of pineapples. It was like a thing that would just be like randomly like, oh, there's a pineapple. And it was because it was this just like extreme, like flex of wealth. Like, yeah, I got a pineapple, no big deal. And so,
hell yeah.
Yeah. So you just put it in your paintings, like in the background. Yeah. It's just a pineapple sitting on a shelf. No big deal.
Also, if you walk around London, you'll see on staircases and stuff, at the end of a banister, you might have like an object. Often it's a pineapple.
Yeah. Because it was like so insanely valuable and rare and everything. Yeah. So even then, so you got this guy's method. So to sort of illustrate how complicated this was. So he has this
pineapple flex.
Yeah. So you'd have
Next episode, I'm just getting a pineapple and just sitting on the
yeah,
desk.
just in the background, like maybe even just in the
Yeah.
trash, just like sticking out of the trash, like whatever. I don't need that pineapple.
Just casually snacking on it. No big deal.
So you have these hothouses that he made. So he would have these tan pits lined with pebbles, and then on top of the pebbles, he would place manure, and then on top of that, he would have tanner's bark, which was oak bark soaked in water, and then on top of that, he would put a pot containing the pineapple plant with some soil and everything. So the manure itself, the problem was too hot. It kept things too hot. So the tanner's bark kind of helped regulate it and even it out and everything. And then this method that he came up with would keep it reasonably consistent and everything for temperatures. So even with this, as you can imagine, it was still really hard to get a hold of pineapple, but it was possible now. You could do it. And so it became sort of an ornament at parties and everything. So to the point where a lot of people, maybe you want to bring a pineapple to a party. You can't afford to actually buy the pineapple. So people started renting the pineapples out. So they'd rent it out for like a week, and you'd rent it for a few hours at a time. Like just go carry a pineapple to a party, or, you just got it on display. No one's allowed to eat it. You're allowed to look at it, touch it, stuff like that. But you can't eat it because you're just renting it. You're not. And then eventually when it got, close to being fully ripe and everything,
And you
then
just carry
they
it
would
round at this party?
Yeah, presumably.
It's a bit weird.
Set it on a shelf, it's just like, hey, yeah. Well, you wear like a diamond necklace. You're like, hey, check out my pineapple, And it was a novelty item, so people were like curious. It's a pretty unique looking fruit.
So I was like, can I try it? No, don't touch it.
Yeah, don't eat it. And so eventually, after it would reach maturity, then they would just sell it. But before they would sell it, they would, rent it out to be carried around and whatnot, so by people who couldn't actually afford to buy it. So, people loved the look too. It wasn't just the taste. This is, again, bringing it to party or having it on display. People loved the look. So like Charles II, he loved pineapples in general. And he also referred to it as the king pine because, I don't know, presumably because it's expensive and also because he thought it looked like it was wearing a crown or whatever. So he was big on it. And so you have 16th century Spanish historian Gonzalo Fernandez de Ovidio y Valdez. He states of the pineapple look.
I do not suppose that there is in this whole world any other so exquisite and lovely appearances. My pen and my words cannot depict such exceptional qualities, nor appropriately blazon this fruit, so as to particularize the case fully and satisfactorily without the brush or the sketch. I mean, pineapples look cool, dude, but I mean...
Yeah. It's a little.
It's a pineapple.
It's excessive, but people, if you've never seen a pineapple before, and you're like, "Whoa, what is this thing?" But
yeah. Describe it to me in words.
Yeah. So they liked it. Artists, architects liked it. So you had
today, I don't know. It's kind of spiky.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, it's got some leaves sticking out the top, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you have have you ever seen the Dunmore pineapple, like the Scotland's famous? It was commissioned in 1761 by the Earl of Dunmore.
No, wait, I looked up the previous painting of the pineapple, the first pineapple. I didn't look this up.
Yeah, the Dunmore pineapple. If people want to look, it's this basically.
I'm giving it a Google right now.
I mean, yeah, Google it. You'll see. It's just this structure, this building. It's got like a when you might have like a curved top, like
wow.
Yeah, and it's just a pineapple on the top.
It's just got a giant pineapple sticking out the top.
Yeah, that's like the ultimate flex. Like, yeah, my house, pineapple, right there.
Yeah. But he's also like, yeah, that's cheaper than an actual pineapple.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we built it with slaves. But either way, so next time you're ordering a pizza, you think it's an interesting dichotomy here because you have this food item that was for poor people. And then you're putting on top of it little bits of things that not that long ago would have been only the exceptionally wealthy in parts of the world could have afforded. You're just casually putting it on, your poor food person item. Like, yeah, I'm putting pineapple. It's like you're, yeah.
I feel just next time you go to the supermarket, just appreciate
that
a couple 100 years ago, someone was paying 10 grand for the pineapple that you're buying for...
Yeah.
What, $2-3?
And let's just face it, it's probably, if you're buying like the pineapple, like the whole pineapple, it's probably just going to sit on your shelf till it rots and you're like, oh, I'll throw it away, because, that's what happens.
It's like, I forgot to eat that pineapple.
Yeah, exactly.
Back in the day, no one forgets that you have a pineapple.
No, exactly. So, yeah. So in any event, yeah, that is the show today.
I love it. Even despite our minor technical difficulties.
Yeah, I'm sure
that maybe will be edited out of the audio version, but will be present in the live version. Yeah, we also broadcast this on YouTube.
Yeah.
if you're watching on YouTube. We also broadcast on podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, I've got confused, but the opposite of where you're seeing it now, we do.
And I wonder, was there several points in which I just kept talking when you tried to jump in? Like,
possibly. So there could be some over talking in today's one.
Yeah.
We'll see. If you got upset with that, listen to the audio version because it'll be tidied up a little.
yeah. People should just listen to that version anyway because it's better.
It is.
So Google,
it's neater.
Google Brain Food Show. Brainfood.fm.
Yeah. Brain Food, one word. Wherever you get your podcasts, you will find it. And also, yeah, my computer won't have a stroke when I'm halfway through reading a quote, which was awesome today. Anyway, this has been the Brain Food Show. Leave us a review if you fancy doing that. We are giving away a $1,000 Amazon gift voucher when we get to 1,000 reviews. So please do that. We'll choose one lucky winner when that happens. Anything else I need to add there? I think we're good. Join us next time for another fascinating origins of food. Are we doing French fries next?
Maybe. Yeah, definitely a food
I
item
need to
of some
bring
sort.
snacks next time.
Yeah, totally. We should.
Yeah. Or just order a pizza.
Yeah.
Actually, have it while... Although it won't be about pizza. Order some fries. But delivery fries suck, generally.
Yeah.
That's not good. They don't stay fresh enough. All right. Well, thank you very much. This has been fun. This has been the Brain Food Show. We will see you all, or speak to you all, or you will listen to us, I suppose, very soon.